Welcome to Stem Cell University. I am Katana.
And I am Patty. Our Stem Cell University channel is here for educational purposes only. We do not intend to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or medical conditions. Always consult with a physician or other qualified healthcare providers before embarking on a new treatment, product to use, diet, or fitness plan.
Do you know what a program is?
Do you even know you're stuck in a life program?
What is a life program?
A program is a mental state of mind. Your mind only knows what you have been exposed to and what is happening around you.
Allowing yourself to realize this is a very powerful in our lives. To take over the knowledge of our own body is very powerful. Learning how our internal system works is a lifelong expectation, but there's hardly any information in our current schools. As we grow up, we are only taught English, math, science, and the basics. We know everyone keeps saying there's something missing.
This is a program you have been taught not to function this way. We are taught only in a way that keeps us broken. Did you know one of our body organisms stops working at the age of about 35?
Our healthcare system is broken. Realize the poor healing techniques that are being used on people. Are you ready to be a part of our broken healthcare system? Are you really ready to be a patient with no way out?
Death is a program of real-time consciousness. Realize the world is now changing into a new way of healing. There is a new technology with the power to regenerate and reverse our bodies back to perfection. Regenerative science is on the rise. Let's look at this 2021 convention of LifeWave and regenerative science.
Seen this before. This was from one of our X39 studies that we did. And I bring this up because this was the brain scan of a 77-year-old woman, and in a matter of 3 to 6 weeks, she had a radical transformation in the health and function of her brain. And most people would think, well, I get to 77, I'm on the last stretch of life. No, we can still reverse signs and symptoms of aging no matter how old you are. So there's a lot to be excited about. So let's take a moment. We want to hear from a scientist in the age reversal community, and then we're going to talk about some research that LifeWave is doing. Thank you.
The problems that the world faces, one is the environment, the other is aging.
For centuries, we've sought out mythical elixirs, holy grails, anything to put off the ravages of time, or at least cling on to our youth. Our fears and insecurities turned into big business. While recapturing our youth might be a bit of a stretch, scientists are now making serious claims about reversing aging.
We now have a scientific understanding of what's driving aging, and we have ways that we can intervene.
It's not anti-aging, it's reverse aging. It's taking the biology back in time. That's what we are doing.
You're aging actually as soon as you're born, even earlier than that. It just doesn't manifest as disease until it gets, you get into your 40s and 50s and later. But that later stage of life, usually an 80-year-old male has 4 to 5 different diseases. But what's happening is that all tissues and organs are getting old. And what that means really, literally, is that they're not functioning optimally anymore. And so you become susceptible to breaks, and cells lose their way and they grow crazy, and you end up with cancer as well. The last 5 years, 10 years of life typically are not something you'd wish on your enemies, let alone your loved ones. You don't get heart disease typically in a 20 or 30-year-old. And the reason is that the tissues are young and they can rejuvenate and heal. So if you took somebody who's 50, 60, 70, and if you could reverse their age, the majority of these diseases would just go away. And so aging is the root cause of these diseases. We've given them names, but really they should be manifestations of aging.
Professor David Sinclair and his team of scientists at Harvard are certain that the pain and suffering of old age isn't something we should accept.
What we want to do is to keep all organs and tissues healthier at the same time for as long as possible. If we can do it make a mouse or a rat, even a dog live like that and die quickly at the end, can we do it in people? Can we do it with medicines? And what would the world look like if we could achieve that?
This world is probably closer than you think. Research in anti-aging has advanced significantly in recent years, mainly down to the establishment of the hallmarks of aging.
There's telomere shortening, there's loss of stem cells, there's DNA damage, there's senescent cells, zombie cells that accumulate. And then there's what I work on in part, which is called the epigenome.
Understanding the relationship between these hallmarks is the major challenge.
The epigenome is the control system for the genome. And we think that a large part of aging, and possibly the reason that other parts of the body go wrong, is that the epigenome becomes dysregulated. And what I mean by that is when you're a young child or an embryo, your cells are told to be a certain cell type. A nerve cell in the brain, when you're young, stays a nerve cell for most of your life. But over time, these nerve cells in our eye, in our brain, start to lose their identity, their epigenome becomes dysregulated. And that's what we think is driving a lot of the aging process. Or what we did was we had a gene therapy where we turned on 3 genes that are normally only turned on in very young humans and mice. We decided to put them into the eye of mice to see if we could rejuvenate their eyes, and it worked. It really worked. Those nerve cells went back to a young age, they were healthier, and we restored the eyesight of those mice, those old mice. My colleagues and I have proven that you can reverse aging. It's just a question of when and how do we apply this to human disease and eventually to aging itself. We've created our own nightmare because we've only addressed one part of the body at a time with the medicines, typically. And the number of people over 65 is over the planet outnumbers the number of babies under 5. And that's the first time in recorded and probably human history of the last few million years. Now, we're going to have a lot of older people. So what are we going to do? We can either let them get old and just sit around and wait to die, or we could keep them healthy and have vibrant people in their 80s traveling the world, looking after families, being productive members of society. And that's a much better case, both socially, for the individual, of course, and their families, but also economically. A number of countries now have more older people than young, and the country has to pay for those people. And whether they're going to be costing millions of dollars per family to look after, or they're going to be productive members and die really quickly, it's up to us. And it's a race against time. It's a worry. It really could bring down the growth of most countries. The work that we just published, and a couple of my colleagues have published as well, shows that it is possible to reset the age of complex tissues in the body. We've seen the eye, my colleagues have done the brain, the spleen. We can partially take ourselves back to being younger without them turning into something horrible like a tumor. And that can be done safely, at least in mice. And I would say most likely in humans as well, because we've done human cells, at least in the dish, human brain cells. So what does that mean? That means that we have a reset switch for aging. And if we can safely turn that reset switch on in the body, it's an exciting future. That means that diseases that were once impossible to cure or even treat, such as blindness, are now on the table as something we could tackle.
How do you feel now after seeing this show?